At Corum, we talk to more buyers than anyone else, and we see patterns of behavior from buyers that kill deals all across the spectrum. Strategic buyers, PE funds, aggregators, family funds, search funds, there are mistakes that all of these can fall into. If you're a buyer, make sure you aren't making these mistakes, and if you're a seller, watch for these from the buyers you talk to. First, have you been doing this too long? Did you cut your teeth and build your habits a couple decades ago in a very different tech M&A environment? Today's market is far more competitive, which means a few things. First, everything is faster paced. These days, if you insist on meeting every potential target in person before making a decision to issue an LOI, or just take too long to reply to emails, you're going to be left behind. Or worse, do you have expectations about valuation, structure, or a heavy-handed approach to integration that are rooted in the past? Now, we're also seeing a huge surge in new buyers, especially new funds with a mandate to acquire. These can have some of the same problems as buyers who've been doing this too long, but for different reasons. If they haven't done many deals, new buyers can get stuck in a tire-kicking cycle and just gumming deals to death, even when there's a good fit if the price is right. And on that topic, I've also seen new buyers in particular almost badmouth their own offers, hemming and hawing over why it's not higher, rather than letting sellers make up their own mind. Just make the offer. The worst they can say is no, and sometimes they say yes. Third, and I've seen this from both old and new buyers, is a know-it-all attitude and a lack of respect and appreciation for what small software companies have built. You'll see this from both strategics and financials, though it can play out slightly differently. For strategic buyers, it can be a not-invented-here attitude where product management just wants to protect their turf, or a simple lack of understanding of the market niche that the small company fills. My advice here for strategic corporate development departments is to have at least one fair-minded technologist on the vetting team who you can trust to give an honest and at least somewhat unbiased assessment of the target company's products. Now, for financial buyers, you'll often see this from those who have come from a purely financial background, or who've spent most of their career dealing with VC or PE-backed companies, and so have come to think of technology companies as just a series of spreadsheets. If you're a buyer and you're asking about ARR and net churn before you even know what the company does and why they do it, well, then you're going to turn off a lot of sellers and lose deals that you should be winning. My advice here is to remember that you're dealing with someone's life work, not a load of lumber. And for both financial and strategic buyers, make sure you've got the right team in place. If you've got people in seller-facing roles who are behaving with arrogance and hubris, you're going to lose a lot of deals without even knowing it. Sometimes because the first conversation with the seller ticked them off immediately. And sometimes because they thought they knew the market so well, they didn't even open the document. You don't want to be to one of those companies that comes to us after a deal is done asking why they didn't see it when no one even looked at the teaser. That brings me to point 4, which is closely related, especially for financial buyers. As a buyer, you want your companies to understand their customers well, right? Well, guess what? If you're paying someone for their company, that makes them your customer for that transaction. So make sure you understand your customer. It's fine to have a broad mandate to buy B2B SaaS companies, but if you can't tell a seller why you are specifically excited about their particular sector and the problems they solve and how you can add specific value that will make the company better, well, then you're going to look like all the other buyers out there. The earlier you can differentiate, the better. But let's say you've gotten past all that and you've got a deal under LOI. Next up is a mistake that we see from both buyers and sellers, letting professionals derail the process. Now, lawyers are the classic example, and I can't tell you how many times we here at Corum have had to tell a buyer to get their lawyers under control. Make sure the business people are making the business decisions and the lawyers are focused on legal issues. But recently, we've also seen third-party outsourced due diligence teams start to play this deal-killing role. It's now common to see more analysts from a third-party due diligence team in a deal room than there are employees at the company being acquired. Now, when these teams work swiftly, efficiently, and respectfully, well, then it can work well. But it's very easy for the tail to start wagging the dog, and folks who know nothing about the company or the deal start recreating the target company's financials from scratch, which is extremely disrespectful to the sellers and can kill the deal over tangential issues that ultimately have nothing to do with the fundamental health of the business or the goals of the transaction. Finally, the big one. Poor integration planning is famously the thing that ruins many, if not most, deals after the fact. And I'd argue that the problems here go all the way back to some of those we talked about at the beginning. When you treat software companies like numbers on a spreadsheet, it's easy to forget that they are in fact complex organizations made up of people, processes, customers, technology, and culture. There's a reason, for example, why founders don't just triple the price of the product from one year to the next, or tell all the employees that they need to move to Topeka or look for another job. Heavy-handed moves like this cause people to feel betrayed, which kills the mojo of the business overnight. Software companies that are run solely by the numbers often cease to have a business at all. So that's one of the reasons Corum is Tech M&A by CEOs for CEOs. Whether you're a buyer or a seller, that kind of strategic outlook is what you need when thinking about M&A. And I'm happy to discuss how we can help, so feel free to reach out. Back to you, Stephanie.